Hello! We are in the second to last step of the lost wax mold making process. So we're getting there, and it's very exciting. Today we are going to learn about steaming out the molds, calculating the amount of glass that goes into the molds, and then setting up the kilns, which will then take us to, firing the glass into the molds, which is very exciting. So we're going to start with learning about the steamer. Like I said when we introduced all of the equipment in the studio, the steamer is this box in the back of the studio adjacent to the wax working station, and it is basically a big metal box that when it's running fills with steam, and that hot moisture-filled air softens and melts the wax out of your mold in a safe way for the refractory material. You are going to be steaming out your molds, probably some of you during class, and probably many of you during your outside of class work time. So it's imperative that you pay attention to this and learn how to use the steamer, and also the few tips and tricks that I'll show you to accelerate your wax melting. So when you come in to use the steamer, it may or may not already be on. If the steamer isn't on yet, know that you have to turn it on, and it takes about a full half hour to get up to full power. So what you do is that you turn the steamer on by coming over to the boiler box, is what I call it. It probably has a more technical name. And you push the power button. There are 3 buttons. You push the one that is clearly the most touched because it is smeared with wax and other gross things. So, delightful, on. And then you'll see that the button turns red. I'm going to clear a little of the wax off right now so you can see it turn red. And also there'll be this indication that it's heating. And those are the 2 things that make it run, so you're in good shape there. And so while the boiler is filling the box with steam, you are very safe to open and close the doors because there's no steam accumulation in there. So I know that this box hasn't been on all day, so I'm going to willy-nilly just open stuff up and ready myself. A point of note, if the steamer is on and people are steaming their molds, clearly the box is going to be full of steam. And what is steam? It's hot. So you want to be more careful than I just was when you open the box when it's been running. So if the steamer is on and you need to get in and out of there, instead you're just going to open the right-hand door and let the steam rush out. And then you're going to open it wider, and you won't get a face full of steam. You also want to check before you turn the steamer on, or right in this beginning few minutes, that all of the hoses that the steamer is being fed are open. You can tell that they're open because there's a little ball valve, and if the handle is perpendicular to the hose, it is closed. And if the handle is parallel to the hose, it is open. So you just want to use your eyeballs and make sure that all the all of the tubes that the hoses, all of the nozzles that the hoses are attached to are open, and that anything that isn't attached is closed. Right? That probably makes sense. Don't open something that's closed, you're just going to make a big puddle. So we're in good shape here. And you can begin to hear the burbling. That's what we're looking for. While it's heating up, I can reach in and out of the steamer with no gloves on. There's nothing hot in here, I'm not worried about it. Once the steamer is going, I will always use these gloves that are living underneath the steamer. And if you're concerned about germs, you can pop a pair of rubber gloves on first. They're plenty large, so you can slide your hands in with your rubber gloves, and then you're at no risk of contamination. That's totally up to you. They don't get used so frequently, so I think that any germs that live in there die fairly readily. when you're ready to set up your mold, you're going to gather. I'm just going to close this while I tell you that so some steam can build up. This is a really simple process. You need a plastic bag. There's bags of plastic bags there's a bag full of plastic bags in the consumables cabinet, and you need your mold that is ready to steam, right? There's still my whole wax positive in there that needs to come out. That's what you need to bring to the steamer. When you're at the steamer, what you're going to see is that below the steamer are some bricks. These are hard bricks. These are the furniture that you will prop your mold up on. So you can hear that the steamer is starting. I'm going to open it up. And I can see that some steam is rising. So I'm going to put some gloves on to start working in here. Steam is a good way to burn yourself. Is anyone coming in the door? Okay. So I'm going to pop these gloves on, and I'm going to grab 2 bricks and position them around the mold. Why are you laughing?
It's because the water looks funny the way it's coming out.
And notice that, you can get a little closer now. Notice that I'm positioning the nozzle right between the bricks, so I can point that nozzle right up into the opening of my mold. So then I'm going to put my mold over the nozzle. And I'm going to actually crouch down and use my eyes to see that it's pointing directly at the opening where I want the wax to come out. All right, that looks pretty good. And then the final thing that I do is that I take my plastic bag and I tent my mold and as much of the bricks as I can, and this is going to create like a little sauna within a sauna, and it will accelerate your wax from melting. And then I put it to bed. You're going to steam your mold out depending on the size of your wax and the size of the opening that your wax is dripping out of. It could take as fast as an hour to steam out and as long as 3 or even 4 hours, depending on your object. So schedule yourself enough time where you can come check on your wax or your mold that's steaming. When you're making your bookings for steaming out, you do not have to be in this room for the entirety of the steaming process, but I do want you to book for that entirety because I want this to be okay for you to come in and out as often as you can without creating too much body density in this room. And you can also then sort of claim a table and leave stuff on it or sort of work on your mold as you need to. And it's important in just a moment that when your mold is done steaming, we go right to the next step to calculate the amount of glass, because you want to do that when the glass or when the mold is quite wet. All right, so we'll come check on that in a minute. So the mold has been in the steamer for an hour, and we're going to check on it and check on its progress. So I'm going to open the right-hand door first, and I'm going to let some steam out, and this way I'm not getting a face full of steam. And then I'm going to open the right door first, excuse me. Open this door. And the first thing I'm going to do is that with my gloves, I'm going to feel the top of the mold. Does it feel warm? It doesn't feel warm through my gloves, so I'm going to carefully reach in without my glove and touch it. And it does feel warm with just my bare fingers. So that's a good indication that the steam has penetrated all the way through the mold, and now the mold is sort of evenly warm. If the top of your mold is still cold, you know that the wax in there hasn't melted out. If it's warm, then you need to use your eyes. So I'm gonna pull off the bag, and I'll just drop it down, no drama. I can see with my eyeballs that if you want to point into the steamer, that there's like a new collection of wax that is accumulated underneath it, so that's a good sign. And then I'm just gonna gently pick up my mold and I'm gonna look at it. Yeah! That's a great sign. So you can see that so much of my wax is gone, and I'm really just gonna use my eyeballs and move it around and confirm that it's all done. And I'm feeling good about it. So I'm going to take this out and this out and just leave it there for a second. That mold is hot, so if anyone's around here, I'll just say, that mold is hot, don't touch it. Not like they would anyway. And then I'm gonna close the steamer. Left door first, right door second, and I can turn it off because I'm done with the steamer. So you notice that on the top of the mold, there's like some nasty accumulated wax. I'm gonna rub that off. And then, before the mold gets too cool, I'm going to boil some water, and we're just gonna rinse out the inside of the mold with some boiling water, and any last bits of wax residue should float to the surface, and then we'll just pour that in our slop bucket. I probably should have turned the boiler on before I yanked this mold out, so we might just pop the mold back in while that's taking time to boil, so the surface doesn't cool down too much, and I'm more likely to get those last remnants gone. Even though the steamer's off, there's still going to be plenty of residual heat. The steamer catch is closed. This will take just a second, but we can pause the video so you literally don't have to watch water boil. Kettle is boiling. I'm going to grab my mold out. These can be reused. They're pretty gross, so we just keep them underneath the steamer. This is not very flat on the bottom, so I'm just going to gently place it on its side, grab the kettle with a clean hand so I don't make the kettle disgusting. With my gloved hand, I'm going to hold it, and then I'm just going to pour. Clearly this water is boiling, so don't splash it on yourself. I'm going to sort of roll it over any little bits of existing wax. And I can see it boiling off, so great. If it gets on, the water gets on the table, that's fine. We'll just squeegee it off. And then, if I can do this one-handed, I'll just dump the water out. If I needed two hands, I would have needed to grab my other glove. And that is looking very good. We'll just add the rest of the water for funsies. I'm going to grab my other glove, pop it on, and then we'll just do a little swish around just to make sure I'm getting any debris and any last bits of wax. And I can show you, I don't know if you can see the surface so well, but the surface has this sort of waxy scum on top. That's how we know that those last little bits of wax are coming up. And then this is ready for water displacement. So the next thing I'll do off camera is measure out the amount of glass that goes in here. Thus concludes the end of this demo.